Welcome to the runshoediaries podcast. This is where we talk about managing your time in ways that helps you accomplish your running goals. Lace up to get your race up. Let's get moving. Hey, what's up everybody out there running on native land, and welcome to the runshoediaries podcast. I'm your host, Luis, aka Chico, and this is season 2, episode 3, making it broadcast number 13. Thank you for spending some of your precious time listening to the show. I appreciate it. I'm definitely not going to waste it. Lace up to get your race up, and let's get moving. We're at the starting line with this episode's guest, and she is a rancher in the hands and a runner in the heart. Her attitude and positivity is contagious. From running incredible distances to directing amazing races, she is making positive moves within a running community. More than ever, we need more people like this. So it is my pleasure to welcome to the runshoediaries family, the Wrangler runner herself, Megan Dehaan. Welcome to the show, Miss Megan.
Hi, happy to be here.
That is great. So Miles Davis once said, "Time isn't the main thing, it is the only thing." So that being said, let's not waste any more time and let's get started with the Fast 5. These are 5 rapid fire questions that I ask you, and it'll give us a quick insight about you. Are you ready? That's good. Let's go. Question number 1. When it comes to running, do you prefer roads or trails?
Trails. Absolutely.
Number 2, medals, buckles, or challenge coins?
Buckles.
Number 3, besides athletics, what is your favorite pastime?
Anything outside, basically.
Okay. Number 4, what is some advice that you would give to your younger self?
Oh gosh, it gets better than here, or it gets better from here. And try not to put too much pressure on yourself.
Number 5, what is something positive happening in your life right now?
Community, people that I surround myself with, just support.
That's great.
In a nutshell.
There you go. So that was the Fast 5. Thank you for those answers. Now, Megan, go ahead and give us your introduction.
Oh, man. I always feel like these are trick questions. I'm a wife, a cattle rancher, a mom, a trail runner by addiction, and just kind of a lover of the outdoors.
There you go. So a funny story, when I was researching you, when I started this whole process and everything, I like to keyword search a lot. I felt like I get really amazing feedback and results and everything. So I put in Megan and then Dehaan Ranch. And then I kept getting Megan the Stallion kept coming up. And I was just like, and like the first thing I did was read the Wikipedia headline that pops up on the feed and everything. And I was just like, whoa, what? She has a mixtape? Like, so now I know who Megan the Stallion is.
Oh, that is not me.
So you have, in one of our past conversations, we talked about coffee. Do you have coffee with you this morning?
Always.
There you go. What are you drinking?
Just black coffee. I have an online subscription to Black Rifle Coffee.
Yeah.
And I'm starting to get another subscription to Crazy Mountain Coffee.
Oh, what?
Which you can assume why.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So I have in my cup this morning, I have Black Rifle Coffee as well. I have Murdered Out. That is the black one. So when the new coffee came in last week, my wife is the one that opened it, and she literally murdered the bag open. Like, she did not use the pull tab and everything. So like,
oh no.
Yeah, we have it like in a Ziploc every morning. So let's start this off with the place that you called home when you were growing up, Santa Clara, California.
Yeah.
I've been to California a handful of times, and a majority of it was for work. But in order to get a better understanding, I'm going to read some things that only a Californian would understand. You speak to these on Cali's behalf.
Oh, no.
Number 1, hearing the state called Cali is the worst.
Yes.
Yeah? Why?
It's just, I don't know. You just don't call it Cali.
Okay.
People that call it Cali aren't from California.
Case in point, the way I introduced the segment here.
Yeah.
Number 2, Going to Disneyland is considered normal.
Yes.
Yeah.
There's theme parks everywhere. So Disneyland, Universal Studios, all of the Great America. I grew up near Great America, so that's just kind of normal.
I was watching Ridiculousness yesterday when I was doing the studying for the podcast, and the guy who controls the video and everything, he mentioned that he's never been to Disneyland. The whole crowd was like gasping, like what? But yeah, so that fits in perfectly with this. Number 3, earthquakes are not a big deal.
Nope. They happen a lot. Yeah, because you're kind of on the fault line. They happen all the time. You don't feel most of them until it's like the great earthquake of, I think I must have been like 2. Yeah. I think it was 87 when the San Francisco earthquake, when like it was pretty destructive. Yeah. And I still remember, well, as a 2 or 3-year-old, I have visions of like stuff flying out of the cabinets. Wow. And I was in the hallway under the door that separate, like in the house. And I remember that. I don't remember it vividly, obviously, because stuff doesn't fly sideways out of the cabinets. But I remember it was traumatic.
Wow. Number 4, In-N-Out burgers are obviously the best burgers.
Yes.
Oh, wait, are you?
So good. Really? Every time I go back, which is not very often, because I actually don't prefer the state. I always get In-N-Out.
Really?
Oh yeah, it's really good. They hand cut all their fries. They take potatoes and they put them through this little thing and they just like cut them and then they deep fry them and just a little salt. Oh, it's so good.
So we have In-N-Out burger here in Houston, and it's not very old. I'm gonna say within the past year it came online. But we got in line, but the line was so long, like it was backed out into the street and everything. I was just like, oh man. So we were gonna be like, all right, let's just wait it out. It got worse. People cutting you off, and I was just like, okay, yeah, we're not going anymore. So,
well, you have to know the secret ingredients too. Like there's different menu items that aren't on the board, and you can order them. You have to know what to order. I'm actually not that good about it anymore because it's been so long. But there's like animal style. You can get the burger without the bun, and then there's like different add-ons that you can put on there. And if you don't know, you don't know. So my brother helps me out because he's still in California. He helps me out when we go.
Okay. And number 5, temps below 65 degrees are considered cold.
In California, yes.
Yeah. Okay. And I can relate to that. Only because, and I hope I'm speaking right, but down here in Texas, we're right on the coast. And the humidity, I mean, it's always here. So any little cold makes it a little bit extra cold because of that humidity in the air. Is that the same over there?
California, yeah. Gosh, it's been so long. Yeah. I've lived in Montana more than I've lived in California at this point.
Wow. That is
awesome. But I do remember it being cold in like 65. Here it's like you're hardly wearing anything because it's so hot.
Well, thank you for those answers. Now I have a better understanding of California, not Cali. So tell us about growing up in the Mission City.
I was young, so I wasn't there. Gosh, I think I moved out of Santa Clara at 3. So I don't remember much of it. Oh, I probably moved out when I was 1 or 2, actually. My parents split and then they got remarried. My mom got remarried when I was 5. And so then we moved to Woodside, California, which is, it's different now. Okay. But my stepdad, they were one of like the first homes in Woodside area, him and his mom. And they lived his mom lived down the street and he bought a house down the road. And they were like one of 5 houses on the mountain. And when I went there, it was not like that at all. It was congested but in the hills. It was considered hill country.
Oh, okay.
So most of my memories are in Woodside area, Redwood City area.
Okay. So I'm going to do my best to tie these in. So, who is Sourdough Sam?
Ooh, I don't know.
Okay. What do these have in common? Candlestick Park and Levi's Stadium.
They host the best football team.
Okay. And what do these years have in common? 1982, 85, 89, 90, 95.
Super Bowls. For the 49ers.
There you go. Okay. So Sourdough Sam is the 49ers mascot. And
That's right. Yeah.
he officially became their mascot in 94. But so let's get to it. Yes, you're a huge 49ers fan.
I am.
Tell us about that.
It's kind of hard not to be. But my dad also worked for them for 20 years. So it was
Wow.
kind of by blood, I guess you could say.
Yeah. What did he do for them?
He was their team chiropractor.
That is, oh man, that is amazing.
It was
So
fun. Yeah.
when I was researching your father, he it shows he did some work for the I think it was the Los Angeles Raiders, the Sharks, and some Olympic teams as well.
Yeah. And he now works with the Chinese Olympic swim team.
Oh wow.
Yeah. He gets around. He's really good at what he does.
So there's some pretty amazing photos on your Instagram that show a 2012 NFC Championship ring, as well as some close-up shots of the San Francisco 49ers. Can you tell us about these amazing experiences that you have with them, with the 49ers?
Yeah. So perks of my dad working for the team, which I didn't get a lot of them when I was growing up. I was kind of pretty young and I loved the 49ers, but I never really took advantage of that.
Yeah.
It wasn't until I moved to Montana that I really was like, I kind of want to start going to these games more. And then,
Yeah.
of course, I moved to Montana, so it wasn't very helpful.
Yeah.
So my brother always got his season tickets and he always got to go to all the games.
Yeah.
And so instead of me doing that, I got different perks.
Yeah.
One of them was when we went to the Super Bowl in New Orleans, and we got to my brother and I ended up going. We
Yeah.
got 2 tickets to that, and it was crazy. It was like once in a lifetime opportunity. We got
Yeah.
to stay in the players' hotel and go to the players' breakfasts with the families, and we got to go to the after party, which was kind of sad because we lost. But it was really fun. And then the other photos are probably the first time I'd ever been to Levi Stadium and the
Okay.
only time I'd ever been to Levi Stadium. My dad got me an on-field photographer's pass.
Nice.
So I have a pretty nice camera,
Yeah.
that he gave me. So I got to like walk around. I had full access to the field and I just
Yeah.
had all these players in front of me and I was just taking their picture and it was just wild. Like
That's awesome.
it was insane. There was one point where the kicker was warming up
Yeah.
and I had stepped too far back
Uh-huh.
and he kicked and he was probably like a foot from me and just like the sheer impact of him kicking the ball
Yeah.
scared the daylights out of me and I yelped and jumped forward and he just turned and looked at me and he starts laughing. He's like,
Yeah.
"It's okay, it happens all the time." I'm like,
Nice.
did you just talk to me? Oh, it was everything I could do to pretend I was professional.
Yeah. So the box that the ring came in, it shows that it was made by Tiffany and Company.
Yeah.
And that's amazing
Mhm.
already. So I have a question
Yeah.
about the ring. Is it heavy?
Yes, it is heavy and huge. It doesn't even fit on my thumb because it's sized to my
Wow.
dad.
Okay.
But that's the traveling ring. My dad has it back.
Okay.
He sent it to me. I got to keep it for a year. And
Oh,
then I had
wow.
to send it to my brother. And then he got to
Yeah.
keep it for a year. And then
Okay.
somehow we convinced my brother to send it back to me.
Nice.
Then I
Oh,
kept
I know.
it for
You
like,
have it right now.
I don't have it anymore. I had to
Okay.
send it back to my dad because he wanted it back.
Yeah. You know, it's funny. Oh, now I don't remember the website. So, of course, through my research and everything, I'm trying to find, these rings and everything. I want to see what it looks like. And
Yeah.
well, I found a website, and of course I can't remember it, but you can purchase replicas, and the replicas are of that ring for that year and everything. And I was like, all right, I'm gonna see if these are like legit. So I was like, all right, let me check out the Houston Texans, and of course we don't have anything there.
Yeah.
So, so yeah, it looks like it's a pretty good replica site and everything.
I don't know if you'd want to buy the original from Tiffany's. That might get a little expensive.
Yeah. I was through my research. I was reading the prices. I was like, all right, yeah, this is the numbers are too much for me to start talking.
Yep, they're too much. But it is cool because they put the name, my dad's name. It says Dr. Leahy on it.
Yeah,
and then the other. So it's kind of cool to have that and wear it. And I wore it like during games, but then I was too scared to keep it on. So it stayed in the box.
You also have Frank Gore's gloves.
I do.
Oh man. So for the listeners that don't know, Frank Gore is an NFL running back, and he is number 3 all-time rushing record. And I believe he has 16,000 yards.
He's the GOAT. He's one of my favorite players.
Yeah, and he has like 270 consecutive games. Like for his position, he's been in the league a long time, which is outstanding and everything. And you have his gloves. These are the gloves that he wore in the Super Bowl. Yeah,
like he actually threw them away, and my dad walked because they go through several pairs during the game.
Yeah,
and so my dad walked over and pulled them out of the trash and put them in his pocket. He's like, "My daughter's gonna want these."
Yeah. You had to try them on, right?
Oh yeah.
Okay. How big are they?
They're huge.
Okay.
Yeah,
okay.
Well, not as big as you would think. So I got to meet him in Denver. Yeah. And his thighs are as big around as my entire body. But he's not that tall. He's he is taller than me, obviously, but he's not like the rest of the players are like 20 feet tall. So I just remember meeting him, and he was still tall, but he was just massive and stout, and it's just very quiet, doesn't talk much.
Yeah.
But still an incredible player.
To put those gloves, the ones that you have, to put those into perspective, Frank Gore was wearing those gloves while he outran Ray Lewis to score a touchdown in the Super Bowl. And this was Ray Lewis's last game. Like, do you have those shadow boxed, or do you have them stowed away for safekeeping?
Oh, they're in a shadow box.
Nice.
All the stuff. I have that, and I have a jersey that my dad got signed by 6 or 7 players. And then I've got all of the beads from New Orleans. Yeah. I did not get those beads in the way that everyone usually gets those beads. I have tons of beads, and I have a towel from there, and like everything, my wristband to get into the party, and everything is all in a shadow box.
Okay. So this was an amazing Super Bowl. So let me recap a few events that took place. This was the first Super Bowl where brothers were opposing head coaches. That would be Jim and John Harbaugh. The Sandy Hook Choir sang America the Beautiful with Jennifer Hudson. The beautiful Alicia Keys sang the national anthem. Beyonce and Destiny's Child was the halftime show. The lights went out.
Yes.
For approximately 35 minutes during the game, right?
We thought there was like a terrorist attack or something going to happen. It was really scary.
Man. And of course, in today's world, I mean, that isn't, out of the question to think,
Yeah.
And also, Colin Kaepernick set the record for longest touchdown run by a quarterback in a Super Bowl. So all of those events took place. And taking into account your firsthand experiences, what was the most exciting or your favorite moment during the whole thing?
Oh gosh, all of it, really. It just being there and realizing that we're actually at a Super Bowl.
Yeah.
And all of it was great. And I had a 6-month-old
okay.
that I left him at home with my husband. Yeah. So like just the whole thing was just crazy. It was fast and furious, and it was just like go and get back. But I think my favorite part was actually after the power came back on, because that's kind of where the game turned.
Yeah. And
we kind of rallied from there, and it was just high anxiety from that point on. And
Yeah.
we were screaming and hugging random strangers, and everyone was excited. And like, you're like best friends with like the 10 people in your vicinity. Everyone's
Wow.
high fiving. And then, yeah. And then, of course, that last bad, horrible play.
Yeah. Well, it just all sounds amazing and everything.
Yeah.
Along the lines of football, next season, I want to host a fantasy football league for runners. And the premise
Ooh.
behind it is going to be to donate to a charity or a cause. At the start of the season, we'll pick our charity or cause, and the winner of the league will have the winnings donated to their charity of choice on their behalf. I just think it's a win-win for everybody and everything.
Yeah.
I'll
That'd
probably
be
end up
fun.
throwing. I'll probably end up throwing in some shoes for the winner or a watch or something and everything, so everybody gets something out of it, you know.
Maybe I'll give one of Gore's gloves. I'm just kidding.
Oh no!
That's not going to happen.
All right, so let's break contact and talk with Megan, the cattle rancher. So let's talk a bit about your occupations and Dehaan Ranch. Where were you a wrangler, and what were your duties as such?
I went to Marlboro. They call it the Marlboro Ranch. Marlboro Cigarette Company used to own Crazy Mountain Ranch
Okay.
in Wilsall, and I worked there for just a summer. It was kind of like a young person's fun job that you couldn't believe someone was actually paying you.
Really?
I went there and I got 7 horses, and your job was to train them up and get them ready for clients and
Okay.
run like trail rides. And I actually knew how to shoe, so I also would shoe a lot of the horses there.
Yeah.
And my shoeing teacher was actually their farrier, so he would come and then I would assist. And there was probably 100 horses there, so
Oh wow.
it took some time, but
Yeah.
yeah, we basically just ran trail rides and taught horse clinics and taught people how to ride and how to groom, and depending on their comfort level.
Okay.
And then we got to do just like fun trail rides, and
There you
it,
go.
it was just, and then we got world-class chefs cooking for us 3
Oh
meals a
wow.
day. I gained a few pounds. It was great.
And now you're a cattle rancher on the Dehaan Ranch.
Yeah.
Is this a schedule-based or a task-based occupation, I guess you would say?
Very task-based. Yeah. It's
Task-based?
seasonal. So each season's different. You have calving season, then you have haying season,
Yeah.
then you have basically feeding season and equipment season where you're working on that. But it's seasonal based, to where it's just the task at hand, taking care of the animals or
Okay.
prepping food for the animals.
Does your occupation work well with your training as an ultra runner?
Yeah, I would say that it works well-ish. It helps keep me strong. Doing chores and staying active outside it's
Okay.
good counter to being a runner.
What are some cattle ranching factors that go into managing your time?
When I try to schedule things out, every one of my friends know that it depends what the weather's doing, or it depends what the cow decides to do. If Betty Sue decides to calve, I'm not going anywhere because I have to
Oh,
tend to that baby. Or
yeah.
if it's pouring down rain, that's actually a good thing for me, because then I don't have to sit in the tractor and bale hay. So then I can go get my run in. So it's not scheduled at all. So if I want to keep a schedule, I'm going to have a lose-lose battle every time.
Okay. Is your significance other, well, I guess, chore list, task list, is it something you have to take into account when you go out for training runs and everything?
Yeah. Yeah. So my husband works probably 5 times harder than me. I'm pretty sure he's working while he's sleeping. But that comes into play if he needs help with something, or if I need to do something for him, or depending on where the kids are, who's watching the kids. And
Yeah.
we take turns with that, who's in the tractor, because you can't, the kids will only last so long in the tractor with us.
Oh, okay. See if you can pinpoint these lyrics for me. Um, you'll ride a black tornado across the western sky, rope an old blue northern and milk it till it's dry. Bulldog the Mississippi, pin its ears down flat, long before you
take this cowboy's hat. Or something to that.
By who?
Chris Ledoux.
There you go. So these lyrics were posted on a picture of your leather shop.
Man, you really dug back.
So,
yeah, I do some leather work.
Okay. So
Yeah.
my first question about leather shop. Why does leather smell so good?
Because it's amazing. It just does. It is such a good smell, and I'm very glad that you appreciate that.
Yes.
I am a leather snob, so if I know fake leather when I see it, and I know fake leather when I smell it.
Do you call it pleather by chance? I mean,
It doesn't even deserve that name.
No. Okay.
Fake leather is just fake leather.
All right. So how did you get into leather work?
So when I moved to Montana, I went to horseshoeing school. That was my ticket out of California.
Okay.
I wanted to run away and be a cowboy. And then I went to horseshoeing school at MSU, and then I found a man by the name of Dale Moore, and he actually lives down the street from me. He teaches saddle making, and it's like the old-fashioned way of saddle making. And so I took a course from him, and then I went back to horseshoeing school and took the advanced class. And then I went back to saddle making school and took their advanced class.
Oh, wow. There you go.
But yeah, I love leather work. I don't do it as much, but I do. It's gone back into more of like gifts for friends, or I most recently made a pair of woolies for a friend of mine who is auctioning off them for veterans causes that she does.
Wow, that is awesome. So I saw that you made some gator gear as well.
Mm-hmm.
What is the difference in working with the leathers material versus gator versus, is it cow?
Yeah, most leather, well, not most, like saddles and bridles and working leather is typically skirting leather, and that's from a cow.
Okay.
And then gator is just completely different hide, and it's only the belly that's actually really usable.
Oh,
because the back has all of those, it's bone basically.
Okay.
To get all those scales in there.
Yeah.
So it's not really workable. But the belly of a gator is what you see for wallets and shoes and belts and stuff like that.
Okay. So what I think would be an awesome idea for an ultra runner is leather strap trophy buckle displays. So they can put their belt buckles on and everything. So I think that'd be pretty awesome and everything.
I'm trying to find time to make some belts for a certain race. Not for everyone, but maybe special awards. Yeah. I just don't know if I have time. They take a long time.
So let's loop back into the beginning portion of this conversation when we were talking about the Chris Ledoux lyrics. I have a challenge for you.
Oh, no.
I'm going to ask you some country music based questions. And if you get the majority of them wrong, you have to run a mile in cowboy boots. If you get a majority of them right, I'll run the cowboy boot mile or the boot scoot and boogie, whatever we want to call it.
Deal.
All right,
I'm going to lose.
Okay, remember, these are all based on country music. I think you're going to...
I'm terrible with names and some lyrics, so we'll see.
Okay. Number 1, in the Brooks and Dunn song, Neon Moon. What is a neon moon?
It's the bar. It's the signs up on the bar.
There you go, bar signs.
Yes.
Number 2. These are lyrics. 3 men in a pickup truck, dressed alike from boots to hat. Can you tell the real cowboy just from where he sat?
Oh, don't know that one. It's probably George Strait. I don't know.
Well, it is Michael Martin Murphey.
Oh, gosh.
The song is called Cowboy Logic.
Oh, no, I don't know that one.
No? Okay. So
I'm going to have to listen to that.
The real cowboy is the one that's in the middle. He's not there just by fate, because first he don't have to drive, and then he don't have to mess with the gate.
Yes.
All right. Here we go. This question here, it determines who's gonna do the boot scoot and boogie now.
Oh no.
So who is the cowboy that yodels Yahoo?
Oh my gosh! I don't know. I have a thought, but I don't think it's right.
Okay, go ahead and see if your thought is right.
In my brain it sounds like Dwight Yoakam, but I don't know if it's him. I don't think it's him.
Okay, it is not Dwight Yoakam.
Ah.
It is a cowboy named Wiley Gustafson.
Oh gosh.
Wiley Gustafson and the Wild West Show is the band, and he recorded this in 1996 in Sunnyvale, California.
Oh wow.
Sunnyvale is right next to Santa Clara, right?
It's near it, yeah.
So
I guess I'm running a mile.
Yeah. So the funny thing about Wiley Gustafson is he grew up. His family's ranch is right down the road from my grandfather's ranch in Montana. And when he started his first album, he did a country music video on the cliffs behind my family's ranch and everything. And so the song is called Doctor My Heart. I don't think you can buy the album. I got it off of eBay once. I still have it on CD. But yeah, the music video, Doctor My Heart, you can see our little ranch in the back and everything. And so in one of the clips, there's a white pickup truck way in the back. Like if you don't know what you're looking for, you won't see it. But all of us were like, that's us. That's us right there. We're in that truck.
That's really cool.
So yeah, Cowboy Boot Mile.
There you go. I'll try my best.
Don't hurt yourself.
Yeah. I'm thinking, what are my flattest boots that I have? I ran in boots. It's not fun.
Yeah. So before we move away from country music, I want to throw this out there. You have a picture posted with your boys, and it's captioned, "Mom, can you put on Take Me Home Country Roads? It's our favorite." And as they sing almost every word, part of me wants to hug them, and part of me wants to cry out of happiness. It's funny that I came across that because my girls say the same thing about that song. And it reminds them of Montana so much and their grandma and our little ranch back there. But every time I play it, they sing, and it's just like I get this heartfelt emotion. I'm just overcome with emotion.
Yeah, it's a good song. It's a good original, not today's country. It just It's wholesome. It's got everything in it that a good country song has.
There you go. Well, I think that we have a good grasp on who Megan Dehaan is as a person and everything. So let's recap, and then we'll move forward with the running portion of this episode. You were born in Santa Clara, a 49ers fan, a mother, wife, cattle rancher, and you create amazing leather work. So now we're going to dive into the running persona of Megan. So first question, why do you run?
Ooh, man, I want to say just therapy, but I don't think that kind of sums it up. I just run for seeking quiet and seeking just a way to calm my mind and kind of reboot myself for the day. It works on so many levels just to kind of reset and kind of center yourself.
So your first ultra was the Rut?
Yeah.
And this was back in 2015, but tell me about this.
Oh gosh. So the Rut here is, well, you ran the Rut, didn't you?
I did once.
Yes.
Once upon a time.
It's either a one and done or a maybe I'll try that again.
And I totally wanted to try it again. Of course, I'm rehabbing an injury right now.
Yeah.
But to make it even, I guess, worse, I didn't make it in time for registration. They sold out that fast this year.
They do. They sell out pretty instantly, at least for the 50K. I think the other distances take a little bit, but it's usually like a day or two. Yeah, it's kind of a local staple, 50K in the area. There's Mike and Mike are both race directors. They're kind of both really well-known local people, both really good runners. The course is pretty cool. It's down in Big Sky and it's big mountains. And I realized that I'm a trail runner with mountains through and through. And that was just kind of like, it followed my go big or go home mentality of kind of what evolved into my trail running addiction, if you so call it. It was just a really fun, painfully awful and wonderful race course.
It looks like, if I'm reading this right, you have ran it 3 times. And in 2016, you ran it 50K, 6 hours and 42 minutes.
Oh gosh, I don't know the times, but that could be right.
I mean, like when I ran it, I was like at 10 hours. Your
Yeah.
slowest time is faster than my time. Because, I mean, I'm just in shock at the 6 hours and 42-minute time. But so out of all the times that you have ran it, is it the same course every time? And what are the issues that challenge you the most out there on that course?
It is technically the same course every time, except for one year I did run it and it was snowing on Lone Peak and they
Oh,
deemed it unsafe, which I'm very glad they did because I would have died going up Lone Peak in a blizzard. It's definitely weather dependent. So
okay.
some years it is so muddy that you can't keep your
Oh,
footing. And I remember there's a gal, I want to say it was Corinne Malcolm ran it one year. I think it was her. I could be wrong. But there's a picture of her running up Andesite. I think it was Andesite. It was the last peak aid station. And she's just covered in mud and she's just like going up this rope. And it's the most awesome, amazing photo of like this
yeah.
strong, awesome woman just like gritting it up. And I think she won that year too. But like,
Wow.
it's either that or it's just a beautiful day and the weather's perfect or it's snowing. But that's what you get in September in Big Sky, Montana.
Oh, yeah.
So that's part of what makes it a unique race as well.
Yeah,
It's just
definitely.
dependent.
So tell us about your nutrition habits when you are out there running these races.
Yeah, now I just use Tailwind. For anything 50 miles or less, I'll just use Tailwind, and in a 50, I'll usually do mashed potatoes in a little baby food pouch.
Okay.
I just make like the instant ones and fill them up, and they work great. Add a little salt to them. I don't like to eat when I'm running, but you kind of have to when you're going farther.
Yeah.
So I just
So,
use tailwind and mashed potatoes and maybe an occasional piece of bacon at an aid station.
oh, wow. So I've heard of the mashed potatoes before. I've never tried it myself. Um, well,
It
with,
works.
yeah,
Yeah, I love it.
with the way that I'm starting to eat now. I'll probably end up giving this a try. So,
Yeah. It's
um,
easy on the stomach. There's not like, I feel like if you start getting into proteins, you start getting stomach aches.
yeah,
It's just easy. It's a simple carb. It dissolves easily and the texture is good. If you don't like eating, like mashed potatoes are really easy to swallow. So works well.
have you ever DNF'd a race?
I have my very first 100.
Or which race was that?
Uh, I'm tough in Idaho.
Can you walk us through this experience?
Yeah. So I always said I would never run 100 miles.
Yeah.
And just natural progression of healthy addiction.
Yeah.
You typically end up running farther and farther. And after being to so many hundreds and seeing others be so successful, it kind of just naturally grew on me.
Yeah.
But so I finally tried one for myself and I trained all year. I hired a running coach. Everything was great, except race day came and we had a lot of fires last year.
Yeah.
And so the smoke and the AQI rating was really high. And I remember race start was really thick with smoke and
Oh, wow.
it was already kind of hard to breathe a little bit, get a deep breath without, you can taste it in the air and you can
Yeah.
see it in the air. And then on top of that, I found out I had an anxiety attack.
Oh.
So it was just kind of hindsight. I actually talked to my doctor about it because it didn't make any sense to me why I couldn't breathe.
Yeah.
And I was just, as soon as the race started, I couldn't breathe. I couldn't get deep breaths and my legs just felt like lead.
Oh,
They
wow.
just felt like I had 10-pound bricks on them and they couldn't move. And it was really concerning for me. And I was trying to get my heart rate down. My heart rate was super high from the start. And it wasn't hard terrain. It was rolling that I'm used to. And I never could get going.
Yeah.
And I ended up DNFing at around, before that, I ended up stopping on several rocks and just crying.
Oh, wow.
Every time I went uphill, my heart rate would skyrocket and I just couldn't breathe. And so I'd have to walk. And that's just not like me. I'm very good on hills. I've trained and practiced on them for years, and I've honed that skill. I know that mountains are my thing. So at that race, I just knew something was wrong. But I'm stubborn and I don't give excuses for myself ever. So I just kept going. But it came to a point where I didn't think I was actually going to finish in time for the cutoffs. And I just could not breathe. So around mile 62, I ended up walking into this aid station, and one of my first pacer actually met me before the lake, and we walked up this road together, and I was just crying and apologizing because I, for some reason, felt sorry that I wasn't going, but I was just done. And there was just nothing, I couldn't push through it. I had already pushed through for 62 miles. There was never an easy mile at all. And I could never quite breathe. My legs never woke up and my heart rate never went down. So I was just like, at this point, I don't think I'm going to be able to finish. And I've given it 62 miles. I mean, if it's not going to get better, it's not going to get better after that.
Right.
So I pulled the cord and cried for about an hour, and it was rough.
So, I mean, the 62 miles, that's basically 100K already, push through and everything. Leading up to the run, you said this was your first 100 miler. What runs did you do before that? Like, did you just go 50K, then you're like, all right, 100 mile?
No. I did have a pretty quick progression, and most would say it was too fast.
Okay.
But I did well at every distance up to there. So after the rut, I did do 3 ruts, and then I kind of did more trail races after that. And then I had signed up for the San Juan Solstice 50 miler in the San Juans in Colorado. I would highly recommend that race. You get up to 13,000 feet. You can't breathe. It's amazing. I signed up for that 3 years, I guess it'd be 4 years now ago. And the first year got canceled for snow. And then we rolled it over to the next year. And then the next year got canceled for COVID. And then that was the year. No, and then the following year, it got canceled for fire, I think. I can't remember the progression. But one of those years, instead of just like not running, I ended up signing up for the one in Pocatello, Idaho. Oh gosh, what is it called? Scout Mountain 50. And so that was my first 50. And I did that, and it was amazing, and I felt great, and I instantly finished and wanted more.
Yeah.
And I thought, if that happens at my first 50, then that's a good sign.
Yeah.
And so after that, I signed up for 120K in British Columbia.
Yeah.
The Golden Ultra. Okay. And again, I was just having the time of my life, and I loved it. Although I did slightly tear my meniscus around mile like 10.
Yeah.
But I still felt like I could run. And so I just kept going. And then that was really, really fun.
You said this one is up in British Columbia, right?
Yeah.
Can you tell us about this experience? Because it's 120K, 18 hours. And to my understanding, you got to pop Champaign on the first place podium on this one.
I did.
Tell us about this one.
Oh my gosh. It was so funny. So one of my pacers, Marilee, she came to one of the aid stations. She goes, "You're in second place." And I'm like, wait, really? Because there's multiple distances going on. There's like 3 other distances. So I had no idea. I knew I was up front-ish, but I just had no idea because it's hard to tell who's doing which, race.
Right.
And my leg was already kind of my knee was hurting really bad at that point. And I was like, okay, well, I guess I got to keep going because that's never going to happen again. And I must have been in third. I was in third place. And then the next aid station, she's like, "You're in second." And I'm like, "Okay, I don't remember passing anyone because there was
Yeah.
so many people." It's like, "Okay, so now I'm okay." um, I just kept running and
Yeah.
pushed it, kind of lit a fire under your butt. Like, okay, this isn't normal. I'm never up front. I'm more middle of the pack runner. And so she ended up picking me up to pace. And I remember coming into that aid station. She goes, "First place is right up there."
Oh,
And I
wow.
was like, "You have got to be kidding me." And so that point of that race was exactly when I realized that this is a mind game first and foremost, and
Yeah.
that training is important, but once you go over 50 miles, I feel like it's 80% mind.
Yeah.
So I realized that I know I'm a gritty, don't quit type of person, but at that point, I didn't push it to where I was in that much pain ever before. And
Yeah.
that's when I realized that I can kind of overpower my mind telling my body to stop.
Yeah.
Um, and that's when I just kind of like took off.
Oh,
And
wow.
it was excruciating, but I didn't feel like I was going to break anything.
Yeah.
I was trying to make sure that like this wasn't a stupid idea. I'd never really been in this position before, but you kind of try to like, I don't want to break my leg or
Right.
tear my knee off or anything like that. So I decided in my stubborn head that this was okay. So within like 5 minutes, I caught up to the first place gal, and she was really nice. And we had a few moments and chatted, and I was like, "How you feeling?" She's like, "I'm good. Just can't go uphill." And I was like, "Well, that's fine because I can't go downhill."
Oh, wow.
And she's like, "Well, have fun." And I just left.
Yeah.
And then at that moment, I'm just like, I can't believe I'm in first place right now.
That's
Um,
amazing.
and it just lit a fire under my butt, and I just went for it. And it was starting into the night, and it was beautiful. And
Okay.
um, we went for a few hours, and all of a sudden, I heard someone behind us, and I look back, and it's her.
Oh, no.
And I'm like, part of me was like, "Yeah, she's getting after it," and the other part is like, "No." And I just took off again, and I just
Yeah.
went as fast as I could up that hill, and she was gaining on me, and eventually I just pulled away. But then like the last 20 miles, it was always like, is she behind us? What was that noise? I
Yeah.
can't see. It's dark. Do you see a headlamp? Is that a guy? Is that a girl? We don't know. And it was just like that the whole way, and sleepwalking, it felt like. And I remember at one point my lip was like, I was so tired. My lip was like sagging. And I couldn't hold my bottom lip up. And I kept
Yeah.
in like a somewhat hallucinating state. I kept telling my pacer, like, my lip, it's just so heavy. I don't I don't know what to do about it. And she
Yeah.
was just kind of like, "What are you talking about?" And then I saw mice on the ground that weren't there.
Oh, man.
Um, they were running with me, and I
Yeah.
remember, like, trying not to step on them because I was like, "Get out of the way, I don't wanna step on you." And she's like, "Yeah, there's no mice." I'm like, "Okay,
Oh,
well, I'll
man.
just I'll just keep running."
So tell us
But
tell us
yeah.
about crossing the finish line and
Oh my gosh.
knowing that you're in first place. How
I
was that? Tell us about that
I
feeling.
I was I was trying my best not to cry, and just like it was amazing. I mean, and I was running slash hobbling slash running slash trying not to fall over.
Yeah.
And I did. Right when I crossed the finish line, I just fell over, and I was just like smiling ear to ear, but so exhausted.
Yeah.
But it was
Well,
it was really fun. It was really
well,
fun.
the pictures on Instagram of you popping champagne, that is pretty amazing and everything.
That was
So
fun.
so can you give us your Instagram handle so we can follow and support you?
Yeah, it's at Dehaan, Dehaan underscore ranch.
Nice. So going back a little bit in our story, when you DNF'd, the 100 miler. I DNF'd my first 100 miler as well.
Oh, yeah.
And I say it is the greatest thing that never happened to me.
Yep.
It really did show me how to start being smarter about my running. Showed me that I can do it, because literally the next morning, when I DNF'd, I want to say it was 1 o'clock at night. And so I packed up my stuff. We went to the hotel, which is literally about 30 miles away. I woke up the next morning and I was just like, oh man, there's still 8 hours left of the run or whatnot. And I was just like, hey, do you think we can go back out there and, finish it out? And yes, I could have. What stopped me? And so listeners, if you ever get to this point, you gotta burn the ships. If you're going to do it all the way. Yeah. I chose to go to the Texans game. and
priorities.
Yeah. They were on this 9-game winning streak, I believe. The game that I went to is the game that we lost. So it was just like, So yeah, I really do feel I could have walked I think I had 16 miles left. I could have walked that last loop and still finished. I mean, I had 8 hours to do it. But yeah, if you're going to do it, you got to burn the ships.
Yeah.
But I don't know if this was your redemption race or not, but can you tell us about and I hope I'm saying this right, Tianaway 100?
I don't know how to pronounce it, but I think it's Tianaway.
Tianaway. Okay. Can you tell us about this race? Because this is a 100 miler and you did complete this one.
Yeah. Well, going back to I'm Tough, it is the greatest thing that never happened, because you can't finish everything. You can't get your goal at everything. You have to fail to move forward if you want to be able to move forward stronger. You have to learn from your mistakes. So it was the greatest gift that I ever had, because it lit a fire under my butt. Right. And I second guessed, should I have quit? So many times.
Oh, yeah.
But after that race, I ended up going to my doctor because of that anxiety attack. And we talked about it. And I had severe anxiety. And for 2 months after the race, I was starting to have panic attacks in the middle of the night. Oh, wow. There were other issues going on in my life. Just I was not treating the anxiety well, and I wasn't hitting it head on. I was trying to find other ways, and I needed help. Yeah. So I went to my doctor. I got on anti-anxiety medication, and I went on that for 4 to 6 months, and it was the best decision I ever made. Okay. And that kind of helped me reset and realize that I can't just keep putting this in the back seat. Yeah. I need to actually address it and put my stubborn pride out the window and just do what I needed to do for myself.
Yeah, there you go.
So that was huge for me. And I knew that I don't quit well. And so I knew I was either going to go back or try a different one. And so when I found Tianaway, it was way harder.
Oh, man.
Way harder. There's 31,000 feet of elevation gain. Oh, it's very similar to Hard Rock, except you can breathe, is what I say. It's lower elevation, so you don't get up to that 14,000 feet. But yeah, I went into that race with a completely different mindset of, this is what you're going to do. There are no options. You are going to finish this. The only thing that would ever stop you is if your leg fell off, or if you had you hit your head and you didn't wake up. I started that race knowing, and without exception, that I was going to finish, and I was going to give it every last ounce of effort that I had. And I am very stubborn in that way. So I knew that I was going to finish. So when I got to the start line, there was no anxiety, because this is what I was doing, and that was what I was going to do. Yeah. So that's what I did.
There you go. Well, congratulations on the finish. I noticed in one of your pictures for the run, you were wearing Craft Ultra shoes.
Yeah.
So I'm reading my notes, and I put in here, make sure the audience knows they're not made of cheese. I don't know why I put that, but the brand is, at least in my experience, less common. I haven't seen very many of them. So can you speak to these shoes. Let us know the fit, durability, weight, breathability, all that stuff like that.
Yeah, so what happened is I usually ran in a different shoe, but I had a heel injury.
Okay.
Like I bruised my heel after a race. I did 100K in Silverton, and then I ran the Ridge Run a week later.
Oh
Not a good
man.
idea. And I kind of fell. I didn't fall, but like there was like a rock that like injured the back of my heel. And so every
Okay.
time I put a shoe on, it was excruciating pain that shot up my leg, but
Yeah.
it was just like a weird bruise. So those craft shoes actually helped a lot for that because they were the first of their product. So
Okay.
Kraft was they're getting into the running scene or the running industry. They have been for the last few years.
Yeah.
And so they're kind of developing as they go. And that was the first prototype of that shoe. And so it was very cushiony, kind of similar to a Hoka. And then the upper was really, really loose and breathable and airy. And that's kind of the only thing I could wear for the race.
Okay.
My one downfall to that is that it was a new shoe and I
Yeah.
wasn't used to wearing it. So it wasn't great. But the shoe itself was good.
Okay.
They've since redone that. They have actually a whole new side coming out now or
Yeah.
soon of like beefier versions of it, and they
Yeah.
look pretty cool. But yeah, it's kind of like a really cushioned shoe, which I thought would work well for that distance.
Right.
But again, like I hadn't really trained in it
Yeah.
too long, so one
Well,
of those things.
the reason I bring that up is because I was going through the website and it's a shoe that I'm very interested in.
Yeah,
Because I mean, the shoes that I'm wearing now, like I feel like all the minor changes that they make year to year, they're moving away from the
yeah,
reason I loved the shoe. So I'm trying to zero in on a shoe that I can make my own again and everything.
yeah,
And since now that I have access to all these great products from Kraft, thanks
yeah.
to Megan Dehaan, thank you. I'm gonna go ahead and start doing my due diligence in promoting them and trying to get their products noticed as well.
Yeah. Yeah. They have a lot of fun new versions of it too that are coming out. And I'm the same way. I'm like, ooh,
Yeah,
okay. Can I have one of each?
yeah, that's how I feel. So on your ultra run profile, and you just mentioned it, but it looks like you've been running the Bridger Ridge Run since 2011. And for those of us that don't know what it is, can you tell us about this run and your experience with it?
Yeah, it's kind of an iconic race in this valley that we live in. And it was my very first trail race, actually.
Oh, wow.
Once I had my first son, I had postpartum depression pretty bad, and I wasn't really a runner at that point. I ran maybe 3 or 4 miles as a long run,
Yeah.
and my idea of getting through postpartum depression was signing up for the Ridge Run.
Oh, wow.
So that's what I did,
Yeah.
and it was awful. But it was really fun at the same time. And
Yeah.
that's what kind of started my running addiction. But yeah, it's a 19, just over 19 miles or just under,
Yeah.
point to point. You run the ridge and you start at Ferry Lake and you end at the M, which is right in town in Bozeman.
Okay.
And yeah, I ran it a few times and I just kept running it and running it. I used to try to bribe the race director
Yeah.
with T-bone steaks, thinking that would get me into the lottery. And
Yeah.
you fast forward several years later, I got asked to join the board of the
Oh,
race.
wow. Okay.
And a year into that, he told me he was a vegetarian.
So he's getting all these steaks
So
for
I'm
free.
like, what is happening with all of these steaks? I've been giving you the best of my entire cow. I gave you the
Yeah.
T-bone steaks and you're a vegetarian. I was so embarrassed. But he said no, he gave them to his family. But to come to find out, that wasn't what was getting me into the ridge. I was volunteering every year because we have
Okay.
to haul water to the very top of every
Oh,
aid
wow.
station by hand. And it takes us 2 months. It's
Wow.
a very large feat, but the community shows up in a big way and we haul all the water on foot. And I just always had done that. because
Yeah.
I wanted to. And that's actually what got me into the race every year. And I
Oh,
didn't know
okay.
that.
Wow,
I
that's
just didn't
amazing.
pay attention to that's why.
Yeah.
But then, yeah, my goal is to get to 10, and that is this year. So
Okay.
here we
Nice.
are. I ran through both, uh, I've had two kids. So one year I had to take 1 year off because I was 8 months pregnant. So I couldn't run that year. So I volunteered at the finish line.
Oh, okay. So, so I anticipated trying to sign up for the run, but that was at the beginning of COVID, and
Yeah.
then so I believe they opened it up to where you had to be a resident of the state to.
Yeah. So we were trying to figure out the best way forward with being
Right.
responsible to our community, because we are kind of a small community, and we thought a good answer would be like no state to state travel. And so that was our first idea.
Yeah.
And so we made that first rule, and then we ended up canceling the race afterwards because
Yeah.
like the cases were just like at the peak.
Right.
And so we just I felt we had a good plan to still hold the race, but the good thing about this run is it's a majority vote and it's a board, so like we kind of keep each other honest, and the
Yeah.
board voted no, so
Okay.
we ended up canceling it.
So there's a YouTube video, a two-part series about this
Yeah.
run and everything, and I'll tell you, just watching that, it just motivates me every time.
Yeah.
And like I haven't ran it yet. I plan to one day, but oh my God, the video is amazing, and it shows a guy playing bagpipes.
Yep.
Tell me
Yeah,
about
a
that.
guy he hikes up to in between Sacagawea and Nyanuki. There's this like in the beginning of the race, there's this huge bowl, and
Yeah,
there's mountain goats all the time. If you're like the first 20 people, you'll see the goats every
yeah.
time. And it looks like Scotland or Switzerland. It's beautiful. And there's always a guy playing bagpipes, and he's always playing Amazing Grace, and it always makes me want to cry.
Oh man,
It's beautiful.
that is amazing. All right, let's talk about your Magnum Opus, the Crazy Mountain 100. Can you give us the details of how this race went from an idea to being completely sold out?
I don't know. um, yeah, I've been in the ultra running community for quite a while now, and I've noticed through the years that Montana just doesn't have a 100-mile race,
Yeah.
and I don't know what's up with that. But the more I started digging into finding a place to host one, just kind of as an idea,
Yeah.
the more I started realizing that we have a lot of wilderness, and you cannot put on a race in wilderness. And so it's a good thing, I
Yeah.
feel, but it's also kind of a hard thing to manage. So there's kind of pros and cons. So all of the initial ideas were kind of like, I was thinking the Spanish Peaks, which is just north of the rut,
Okay.
was one of my favorite ranges too. And I was thinking, well, that would be crazy. But instantly kind of realized that that was too crazy. And it just wasn't going to work. And it's all wilderness. So I started gravitating towards the crazies because I have a lot of experience in that area. I worked, at Marlborough, which is at the base of there. And I have a lot of people that I know in the communities surrounding it.
Yeah.
And so I just kind of I started thinking like, well, this is a crazy idea. The crazies are named that for very good reason.
Yeah.
They're sketchy, they're high. Not many people go there, but I think it might be doable. And so several years of planning and talking to the community and talking to landowners and talking to anyone that really has an investing thing within the range.
Yeah.
I started, instead of having roadblocks, they were more of like support.
Okay.
And it was kind of crazy to me because you don't get support typically in the crazies. It's very, the whole range is checkerboarded with land ownership because of the old railroad land swaps that they did,
Okay.
kind of ruined the range.
Yeah.
But now they're doing land swaps and kind of trying to create more access to public users, public land users. And just like everyone's really trying to work together mostly. And it just worked. Like
Yeah.
I would talk to landowners, and being a cattle rancher, it was kind of easy to kind of speak that language and understand like what we as cattle ranchers and landowners expect for being respectful for property rights and this and
Yeah.
that. And I don't know, it was crazy how many yeses I got.
Nice. That is amazing. So it's a point-to-point course, and it
Yeah.
consists of private land, native land, and U.S. forestry land. But how
Yep.
did you and your team decide the actual course itself, and what can
Um,
runners expect?
lot of rerouting.
Okay.
Finding the start line was the hardest because you could get access, but then you couldn't really connect it because there's only so many spots that are accessible there. And then like piecing it together is even harder. So I would draw out what I initially wanted, and then you'd find out, okay, that trail doesn't actually even exist. Or that goes and you're now trespassing, so you can't go that way. Or there's no actual access to that spot, so I can't go that way.
Yeah.
And so it was a lot of routing and then submitting that to Forest Service, calling landowners, making sure that I wasn't being disrespectful to anyone. I even talked to people or Native American people and I wanted to make sure that I wasn't going through anywhere that was sacred in a way that I
Right.
was going to disrupt that area.
Wow. Yeah.
Um, and reworking it over and over and over and over and then
Yeah.
over and then over again is how I ended up with what I have now.
Wow. Well, on behalf of all Native people, thank you for your consideration.
Yeah.
I think we all definitely appreciate that sentiment alone.
Yeah.
Will there be a GPX file for the runners to download?
Yes, there is one now,
Okay.
but currently it's written through Gaia. But we have a sponsor for the race,
Okay.
Onyx Backcountry, and they're in the process of putting it on their platform.
Okay.
And then once they are done with that, actually all the runners will get a free subscription to Onyx
Oh,
and
nice.
have the course already downloaded into the app. And
Yeah.
then they'll be able to also download it. So you can do it through Onyx, you can do it through any platform really, because the GPX file is just the file.
Okay.
And so that's highly encouraged to download that because it's still the crazies.
Yeah.
Please download the file.
Yeah. All right. Did you run out the route?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
I spent the last 2 years going through
Nice.
the area just to make sure there was a route, which
Yeah.
there is the last section, the last portion of the race, not the very last, but there's a kind of a 10-mile stretch where it's like, there's a trail, but you can't see it
Oh,
at all. It hasn't
okay.
been used.
All right.
But the Forest Service did go through and clear what they haven't touched in probably 10 years
Okay.
last fall. And I'm going to check that this summer
Okay.
multiple times to make sure.
I'm sure we can expect to see some wildlife, possibly.
Yes, I'm sure of it. Especially the front people or even through the night.
So I'm signed up for this currently, and in my current state, I am going by the thought of finished lines, not finished times. So it's a 36-hour cutoff.
Yep.
And is there a cutoff for each aid station?
Some aid stations have cutoffs and some do not, just because of the nature of the aid stations. There are two that you literally can't drop at. One
Okay.
is very, very much so you can't drop at because people are packing in 8 miles by horse.
Oh, wow.
So, I mean, you'd be better off just walking to the next aid station if you need to,
Yeah.
or you have to make that call to search and rescue and get a ride.
Oof. Don't want to do that.
Uh,
All right. So the trail running community hasn't traditionally been all inclusive. as the race director of the Crazy Mountain 100, this is one of your missions. Why is this an important aspect to the race?
Oh gosh, for so many reasons. Like you said, the Native American aspect of the race, this whole range is considered sacred. And I feel like if we were to ignore that fact and ignore the history of the range, that it would be a disservice to the area.
Yeah.
Just on that alone, I think is enough to want to invite all aspects of people, or all diverse people to the range to experience that area. I know that some people still go up to Crazy Peak, and Crazy Peak is privately owned. And that landowner allows Native American people to go and still do vision quests up there,
Oh, wow.
which I think is really cool and
Yes.
needs to be kind of known. Like
Yeah.
you can't really change the past, but you can educate people on it and make people more aware of the history. And I think that's incredibly important.
Yeah.
And so just having that at a minimal level, like, hey, you're going to come run this race. Let's teach you about the history of where you are. I think it makes it that much more special anyways, to know what you're running through,
Yeah,
knowing the history of the range. And there's just the clear running needs to be more diverse.
Yeah.
Totally it's getting better. I feel like, I think a lot of people are taking the initiative to kind of like do their part in making it more accessible.
Yeah.
I know I've heard people say like running's accessible. You just like get a pair of shoes and you go run. Well, it's not that easy.
Right.
It depends where you live.
Yeah.
As a woman, I wouldn't run in the middle of the city alone. There's all sorts of aspects to running that's not quite accessible from everyone or for everyone. So I just felt like it's an easy thing to do, to make people feel like they want to come to this race and make people feel welcome. And some parts of it are harder than others, but I think it's worth doing. If you see the kind of person you are represented at a certain event, then you feel more included and you feel like you're more welcome. So why wouldn't we all do that?
Right. Bryce Denton and Mountain Ultra have selected some runners to participate in this event. Can you speak to how this joint venture to get BIPOC runners to your starting line unfolded?
Yeah, it was funny. He started his company kind of like the same time-ish that I was building this race. And I was already seeking something out to try to like get runners to the start line in a way. And it's a first-year race, so like I don't have a lot of money. Like I literally don't have any money until the race opens. So I'm like, I can't like just pay for a bunch of people to come, but I want to do that eventually. So it was just kind of like by default that all the people that I was involved with had also started getting involved with Bryce. And so that's how I found him. And I was like, hey, let's talk. I like where you're going with this. Let's diversify the start line. And it worked perfectly. And we've become pretty good friends since then.
That is amazing.
Yeah.
As an Army officer, in an effort to reveal weakness and improve future performances, I'm a big advocate of supervise, inspect, and refined. Now, I know this is our first year having this race, but in future races, do you have any plans moving forward for the Crazy Mountain 100 to continue diversifying the race?
Absolutely. I have lots of ideas, but getting those ideas to actually work is another thing. Right. So my idea is basically to do what Bryce already does with Mountain Ultra, but within the race itself. So again, I need funding for that. The point of this race is not to raise a ton of money for myself, whatever. My goal would be to have enough money to pay for the hired help that we have to hire to replace me on the farm. That's my goal. But one of my ideas was to get a fund going at check-in, so at registration. This year, I just offered the option to donate to 2 nonprofits or to 2 causes. And we raised, I want to say it was around $700 or $800 people donated after paying registration already to Gallatin Cattle Women's, which is it's a really fun group of ladies that are all cattle ranchers or cattle ranchers' wives, and they get together and they have meetings and they spread awareness for agriculture things. And they have a scholarship for students of ag that are continuing ag education, and they give those scholarships directly to those local students. And we raised like $500 for that. And then Mountain Ultra, again, people were just eager to help with that. So my next step is to keep that in-house and start a fund to use that money to get more athletes to my start line as well. So it would be not just here's a free entry to my race. It would be even more than that. Like, I realized that giving a free entry to a 100-mile race is one thing, but without providing the support to even get to a 100-mile race, it's not likely that you're going to get many people there. So I want to support the shorter races. So someone wants to be a 100-mile racer in a few years. I want to pay for that 50-mile race.
Okay.
So that they can qualify to even enter my race and support that beginning, because that's where it needs to happen. Or that person needs shoes. I want to buy them shoes. That person needs travel expenses. I want to pay for that. So then eventually they can get to my race and they can have a free entry to the race. And that's what's going to pave the way for more people to get to the race.
Wow.
So with you, we were able to get this really cool kind of collaborative logo with runshoediaries and the Crazy Mountain Ultra. And I'm actually going to use that logo to promote that idea. And so we'll have to stay tuned, but it'll most likely be post-race. People can buy some swag for the race, and then they can opt to buy my logo on their swag or this collaborative logo, and then those proceeds for that logoed swag will go towards that fund.
There you go. I love it. And just remember, I'm always here to help out. So anytime you need something, man, just let me know.
You've been amazing. Yeah.
One last question. What can the running community do to become more open-minded and supportive of an all-inclusive race environment? Now, I'm talking about both runners and race directors.
Just acknowledging that there is something going on, and then just being open-minded. It's one thing to acknowledge something exists, but if you're not going to actually make a step towards changing that, nothing will ever change. So that's kind of where I am at. It's like, it's easy and it's hard to kind of step into that space where you're trying to make a change, because there's just so many facets to that space. But we can all be trying to do our part, and it doesn't have to be big. Like, you don't have to go start a race and like make this huge impact. Like, that's not accessible. Like, that's not a thing that everyone has access to, but you can make small steps. I mean, awareness is obviously a great step, but like, I would encourage people to kind of take a step past that. And I guess it just depends on who you are and what community you're in and what you have access to. But for me in this space, I had that ability to kind of make some, a low level difference. One person's not going to change the world, but everyone making small things will eventually.
Right. Both you and I attended the online workshop put on by Run Diversity. And this issue was brought up by many a race director.
Yeah.
So, it is out there. And like you said, everybody making small changes within their community and everything. That's a good starting point. And I think we're all on pace in the right direction right now. So,
well, and if you are working in your own community, I honestly think that's going to make the most positive change, rather than just being online and being more of like a broad aspect of it. If you are working within your community and everyone else is working within their community, that's going to be the real life change, rather than, there's still a space for the more broad aspect of it. But I think the real change, like when you're not on this earth anymore, people are going to remember what you did directly for them or with them, or the support. They're not going to remember some person on the internet, that
Yeah.
said something nice about you. They're going to remember that person who came with you on a run, who encouraged you, who gave you access to something that you wouldn't have had otherwise. And so
Yeah.
that's kind of where it's like, okay, I'll do the things behind the scenes that nobody knows about, and I'm cool with that.
There you go. Well, Megan, those are all the questions that I have for you. Is there anything you want to add or revisit before we move on to the next section?
No, I think just don't put so much pressure on yourself to perform. Just run happy and run for health, and just have fun.
There we go. So usually at this point in the conversation, I have warm-up questions before we jump into the 5 to stay alive. But in this case, I made an exception for you, and I'm going to give you some double or nothing questions on the boot, scoot, and boogie. All right, double or nothing question number 1. Who went to Georgia and why?
Who went to Georgia and why?
Yes.
Oh, the devil!
Yes.
He was
Why did
looking
you go
for a
to
soda steal.
Yes. All right. Double or nothing number 2. Which one of the following facts about the King of Country, aka George Strait, is false?
Ooh.
He served in the United States Army. He is the most decorated member of the Grand Ole Opry. He has a degree in agriculture.
Oh, I don't think he served in the Army.
So he actually did serve in the Army
Oh.
1971 to 1975.
Okay. So he must not have a degree in agriculture because he has to be decorated in the Grand Ole Opry.
So he has a bachelor's degree in agriculture from the Southwest Texas State University, graduated in 1979. So he is not a member of the Grand Ole Opry. He turned it down because he retired. And to be a member of the Grand Ole Opry, you have to perform a certain number of times a year.
Oh, wow.
All right.
Well, he gets the pass. He's the king.
Yeah, I think he does.
Yeah.
All right. So again, this is going to be double or nothing. I mean, it comes down to this last question here. Here we go. Double or nothing number 3. You're either running 2 miles or no miles in boots. Here we go. Chris Stapleton was a member of which rock and roll band? Is it the Steel Drivers?
Steel Drivers.
Okay. Is that your final answer? Do you want?
Oh, can say the rest because now I feel like I should
Okay.
wait for the rest of the answers.
So, I'll re-ask the question. Chris Stapleton was a member of which rock and roll band?
Oh, okay.
The Steel Drivers, the Johnson Brothers, the Twisted Brown Trucker Band.
I don't know the rock and roll band. The rock and roll. I don't know. I'm gonna guess.
Okay.
It's what was the second one?
The Johnson Brothers.
I want to say it was that one, but
It is.
okay.
Congratulations. So that is actually where he left the Steel Drivers and he went to the Johnson Brothers, was the front man, and he developed his I guess Southern rock persona and everything.
Okay.
So
The
yeah.
Steel Drivers are still good.
Oh yeah, they are. Love them.
Yes.
All right, so those are the double or nothing questions, and it looks like neither of us are going to be running any boot, scoot, and boogie miles or
Good.
anything.
Sounds
All right.
awful.
And now it's time for the 5 to stay alive, and these are questions that I ask every guest about themselves and what keeps them going. Contestant Megan, are you ready to answer the 5 to stay alive?
I'll do my best.
Question number 1, do you run with or without music? And if so, what is one power song on your running playlist that motivates you?
Oh, I just do playlists. I don't have a certain song.
Okay. Can you give us one song that, like, when you come on, you know it motivates you?
I do. And this is kind of funny, but there's a song by Post Malone called Rain.
Okay. Post Malone,
It's
Rain.
silly, but it for some reason motivates me.
All right. That sounds good. Question number 2. What are some things in your life that had positively changed since you started running?
Just mental clarity, being able to get through emotions or day-to-day tasks with that workout or that endorphin booster right before. It really just helps me make better decisions.
There you go. Number 3, in your opinion, what is one thing that an athlete should avoid in their journey to becoming a better runner?
Weird diets. Just eat. Don't try to underfuel. Eat a lot. Eat good food. Don't do anything restrictive because it's just not going to last.
There you go. Question number 4. Finish this statement. When it comes to long distance running, Megan cannot leave the house without her
favorite running shorts.
Okay. Which ones are those?
I have 2 actually. I like the mountain climbers that Rabbit makes. Okay. And then I really like Kraft's. Oh gosh, I can't remember what they're called. They're newer. They just came out with them last year. They're really short, so they don't chafe, and they're really flowy and airy. They're ultra running shorts. Okay. There's only one pair. There's no liner in it. There's no like shorts liner. It's the one without them.
Okay, well now I'm gonna check those out because right now I'm using the Rabbit, the quad bangers, the 5 seams. So yeah, I'm definitely gonna check out the Kraft ones next. All right, and question number 5: do you have a running, workout, or a life mantra?
Just keep swimming.
There you go, Dory.
I sing that almost during every run, and it just cracks me up. Because it tells you to keep going, but we're not really swimming, but it just makes me laugh.
Yeah, definitely. All right, well, thank you for all those answers to the 5 to stay alive. Those are all the questions that I have for this entire conversation. Is there anything that you would like to say, add, or revisit before we bring this episode to a close?
Come run in the crazies with me.
Yes.
I'd love to have you.
There we go. Hey, Megan, thank you for agreeing to be a guest on the show. Whether it's cattle ranching, running a race, or race directing, you're always working hard. Your journey has taught us that not everyone will appreciate our hard work, but we get what we work for and not what we wish for. On behalf of the running community, I want to personally thank you for all the hard work that you put in behind the scenes that is bringing diversity to the forefront. It's greatly appreciated, and know that you have our continued support. And again, Megan, thank you. It was definitely an honor to have you on the show.
Well, thank you. That was too kind.
All right. Well, you have a great day, and I'll see you out there in the trails.
Yes. See you soon.
Yes, ma'am. We're approaching the finish line, but before we cross, here's some news and views. That was Megan Dehaan. And as I mentioned before, her positivity is contagious, and it truly encompasses the spirit of Montana as well as ultra running. Megan's journey within the running community is amazing, and it is far from being complete. I want to reiterate a piece of the conversation that we had when we were speaking on the topic of diversity. Her effort, knowledge, and commitment is seriously an example to follow. Let's recap. Here's Megan.
Calling landowners, making sure that I wasn't being disrespectful to anyone. I even talked to people, Native American people, and I wanted to make sure that I wasn't going through anywhere that was sacred in a way that I was going to disrupt that area. And reworking it over and over and over and over and then over again is how I ended up with what I have now. I spent the last 2 years going through the area. Like you said, the Native American aspect of the race, this whole range is considered sacred. And I feel like if we were to ignore that fact and ignore the history of the range, that it would be a disservice to the area. Just on that alone, I think is enough to want to invite all aspects of people, or all diverse people to the range to experience that area. I know that some people still go up to Crazy Peak, and Crazy Peak is privately owned, and that landowner allows Native American people to go and still do vision quests up there, which I think is really cool and needs to be kind of known. You can't change the past, but you can educate people on it and make people more aware of the history, and I think that's incredibly important. And so just having that at a minimal level, like, hey, you're gonna come run this race, let's teach you about the history of where you are. I think it makes it that much more special anyways to know what you're running through, knowing the history of the range. And there's just the clear running needs to be more diverse. I just felt like it's an easy thing to do, to make people feel like they want to come to this race and make people feel welcome. Some parts of it are harder than others, but I think it's worth doing. If you see the kind of person you are represented at a certain event, then you feel more included and you feel like you're more welcome.
As runners, we all experience different battles throughout our running career, but exclusion should not be one of them. So on behalf of the BIPOC running community, thank you for the strides that you're taking to create an all-inclusive running event and community. Furthermore, I appreciate the guidance and the support. So keep up the great work, keep moving, keep improving, and I'll see you out there in the crazies. Next, Megan's addition to the Spotify guest playlist is a song called Post Malone by Sam Felt, and it features Ronnie. She misread the title during the 5 to Stay Alive. Also, when we were mentioning staying away from weird diets, we're talking about the fad diets that backfire and they lead you to a diet binge cycle. So don't go filling up on fettuccine Alfredo right before your race like Michael Scott from The Office. I mean, even Phyllis and Bob Vance pass him up at the end. So stay smart, stay hydrated, eat within moderation, and you'll do fine. Special shout out to Bryce Denton and the Mountain Ultra team for all the hard work that has been dedicated to diversifying the starting line. We appreciate and love the outcome. You have our continued support, my friend. And with that, we have crossed the finish line. So if you have any questions, comments, concerns, or guest recommendations, contact me at runshoediaries@gmail.com. Again, that is runshoe.diaries@gmail.com. Be sure to follow us on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. Keyword search Run Shoe Diaries. Thank you for listening to the Run Shoe Diaries podcast, episode 13, with the Wrangler runner Megan Dehaan. Until next time, remember that with each step comes the decision to take another. So keep putting one foot in front of the other, because it's amazing what you can do on your own 2 feet. And I'm out. Montana, I miss you!